Tyler Boyd's dip in production last year better correlates with Andy Dalton being off the field than it does with A.J. Green being off the field, despite public perception. In 7 games in 2018, where all 3 starting Rams receivers were healthy, Brandon Cooks led the trio in targets, receptions, receiving yards, and total PPR points by a considerable margin. I have no incentive to draft bad running backs on questionable football teams. He's 4,800 on DraftKings. He's 4,800.
It's a beautiful day for football. Welcome to the RotoBros DFS Fantasy Football Podcast, brought to you by FanShare Sports, where you're going to find exclusive ownership projections, point projections, any sort of DFS data you could possibly need for NFL, PGA, working on an NBA product as well. Check out FanShare Sports, guys. Trust me, you will not regret it. It is week 17. I am here with, as always, Joe Pollock. You guys may know him as the human stat sheet. To me, he's always going to be the producer, man. Joe, what's going on, man? How we doing?
Dude, I'm doing awesome. This slate is so much fun because it's almost like the preseason and week 16 had a love child. You know what I'm saying?
I know exactly what you mean, man. Week 17, and we've been talking about this in the Discord, it's always the most fun slate of the year, right next to week 1. It can't quite keep up with the hype of week 1. I mean, we start planning for week 1 a month in advance. Like, people, you know, once all the pricing is available, that's when we really start diving in and we start building lineups, even though we know none of them will mean anything come week 1. But with week 17, it's just with guys resting, teams sitting their starters, games literally not mattering, and other teams just going all in to try and get a better playoff seed or a playoff spot. It's just nuts. There's always a ton of value. Like, we've got RG3, we've got Robert Griffin III, who's genuinely playable in DFS this week. That's how crazy week 17 gets, man. What a world.
Yeah, I mean, there's a world where Brett Hundley is a highly owned quarterback this week.
If Jared Goff sits, do you think he will be higher owned than Blake Bortles?
No, I think Blake Bortles is the stone cold nuts if Jared Goff doesn't play a snap this week.
I will play all the Blake Bortles. I will go all in on Blake Bortles. Hey, and you know, we talked about this before the podcast started. It has been a thing back when Bortles was the starter in Jacksonville. Anytime Leonard Fournette sits, Borton cash. That's the play. Well, guess what? Leonard Fournette is doubtful to play with an illness. Even though they're not on the same team, Blake Bortles could still be the Stones again. I love it. I love it.
It's the Blake Bortles Reichwell Armstead correlation for 2019.
Reichwell Armstead is 4,400, and I think he could be a lot of fun, but we're going to talk about that. Normally on this show, we go position by position, not really game by game. I don't think we have a choice here. I think we have to go game by game because we have to talk about what games matter for other games later on in the slate. Joe, you have kind of been working on a little spreadsheet there just to keep us both in check on what games matter and what games don't matter and what games correlate with other games. So I'm going to give the floor to you. Why don't you kind of give us an idea of what we're going to see as far as how games are going to correlate together?
Well, the most important ones here are at the top of the AFC and NFC. We've got the Packers, we've got the Saints, and then way down on Sunday Night Football, we've got the 49ers/Seahawks. So 49ers-Seahawks isn't going to matter to this, but the Packers and Saints both matter a lot, and they're in fantastic matchups, and they're both going to be playing to win games. So those are guys I'm looking to target. Also, the Patriots and the Chiefs play at the exact same time. So those are two teams that are really going to be scoreboard watching. There's a world where New England just takes their foot off the gas pedal at the end of the game and the Chiefs have to do the same thing. But like, there's a world where the Texans could also overtake the Chiefs if somehow the Chiefs lose to the Chargers. So those are teams that I think we can count on all their players. On the flip side of that coin, Minnesota, Buffalo, Baltimore, I can't play any of them, because their games don't matter to their seeding whatsoever. Beyond that, like, we can kind of trust everyone a little bit, but not as much as we could in, let's say, week 14.
We already know that Baltimore is sitting their starters. We already know that Minnesota should be sitting their starters. We've heard some back and forth things about Houston. I don't think I'll be looking Houston's way for any starters. What else we got? I mean, I know we can trust the Patriots, and I was actually interested in Tom Brady in that matchup, but we can get to that. Yeah, I think you summed it up pretty well. One thing is just as we go game by game, I'm going to need you to keep me on track and just keep reminding me which games matter because there is no way I'm going to be able to keep track of all of this.
The biggest thing here is that the early slate of games only matters to the early slate of games except the Houston Texans.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, obviously Sunday Night Football matters to everybody in the NFC, but like the Houston Texans are the only team that's scoreboard watching and will start their players if the Chiefs lose and will not probably start or play anyone if the Chiefs win.
Yeah, that sounds about right to me. Joe, what do you say, man? Do you want to just dive headfirst into this 15-game monster slate?
Bortles week. Let's do some quarterbacks.
I am so here for Bortles. I mean, you still want to go game by game, though, right? I mean, I still think that makes the most sense. Oh, man, I do miss going quarterback or going position by position, though. I can't wait to dive right into that for the playoffs. But all right, game one, at least what's at the top of Fantasy Labs right now. We've got Miami at New England, 45 over under. The Patriots are a 17-point favorite. Why don't you talk to me about why Tom Brady could be the nuts?
Miami, dude. Like, I would play Tom Brady. I would stack him with Julian Edelman. I would even maybe consider stacking him with Sanu, but Sanu played like 97% of the snaps last week. He just hasn't really been that productive. The breakout could come against Miami, though. I'd love Tom Brady, and I don't mind stacking this game and that Chiefs game because they matter to each other.
That young week 17 breakout. I am definitely interested in Brady against the defense that ranks 30th in the NFL in explosive pass rate allowed. Julian Edelman is so quietly the wide receiver 5 on the season. And like
nobody's talking about
his
him.
pricing never reflects it. His pricing just stays steady in that 6K to 7K range on DraftKings. And I totally think it's a fair value. And I know with Tom Brady, it's like nobody's going to play him. Nobody
ever plays Tom Brady.
No, nobody ever plays Tom Brady, number one. But number two, it's there's value. You've got Case Keenum value. You've got RG3 value. And I think that's where a lot of ownership is going to go. I think Dak Prescott's a good play at a similar price point. He's going to pull ownership off of Tom Brady. Right now at FanShare, I mean, I'm just scrolling down ownership projections for quarterback, and Brady is way down there below 1% projected ownership against Miami. And when was the last time you got the quarterback starting against Miami at sub 1% ownership? Like, has that happened once this year?
Lamar Jackson might have been there week 1.
No, I know he wasn't because I played a bunch of Lamar and he was still like 5 to 8% owned.
Then it hasn't happened, I don't think. Because after that, everyone looked at that as the Stones matchup, and it hasn't really changed all season.
Yeah, like Miami and Arizona has always been the matchup for quarterbacks all year, and like nothing's changed. And nobody's going to play Brady. So, I mean, if you're, and we've got value at other positions. So if you want to get creative and pay up at quarterback in tournaments, Brady might be the best play there right next to Dak Prescott. But I mean, we'll get to that game because I do like that game a lot. But what else is interesting in this game? I know Sony Michel is questionable. And if we're in a spot where Sony Michel is out, I mean, what can we expect for the other Patriots running backs? I mean, does Rex Burkhead become more interesting? Does James White become more interesting? What?
Yes.
Yes to both?
Yeah, they both become more interesting because you never really know what this team's going to do at the running back position. So I never play these guys in cash, but in tournaments, I'm all aboard playing either of them if Sony Michel sits. I'm probably a little bit more interested in James White just because his role is a little bit more defined, but I'll play either of them.
I would agree with you. I mean, with Sony Michel off the field this year, as far as like snap share is concerned, James White, his target share hasn't really been different. It's just, it is what it is. All of his snaps come with Sony Michel off the field anyway. But I think, okay, so more snaps if Sony Michel is out. Rex Burkhead or James White?
Probably Burkhead, but I think it'd be really close to a 50-50 split.
Yeah, per the injury splits tool at the Quant Edge, James White has outsnapped him in that situation by like 6%, so it's pretty close. But
we got to keep in mind too that Burkhead missed some games.
Correct. But James White has a higher red zone carry percentage at 41.9%. Rex Burkhead sits at 29% red zone carry percentage. So I do think it's interesting, and I think they're both going to be in play, assuming Sony Michel sits. Now, if Sony is active, are you willing to play him?
In tournaments, I don't have an argument against it, but I'm probably steering clear of that backfield altogether, even in this fantastic matchup.
You'd rather play Brady in the pass game? Because I kind of agree with that.
Yes, definitely. Because I think I can predict it better, and it's still going to be low enough owned that I can get leverage on the field.
I think I like James White regardless of Sony sitting, but I think I like him a lot more if Sony plays. James White is going to be super low owned. Like, that's going to be a super low owned stack. I still think you're getting James White at decent value at 5,900. And he's, we've got him projected for sub 5% ownership at FanShare. And I think you could probably pencil him in for maybe a 20% target share. So I would play both of them. It's one of those rare situations where you can stack a quarterback with his running back. And I'm about that. On the road against an elite defense, there's no reason to play any Dolphins players, correct?
No, and I'm seeing people talking about playing Patrick Laird, and just don't. Just don't play Patrick Laird because they signed Samaje Perine off of, I don't even remember whose practice squad he was on, but he's now on the active roster. You can't play him on DraftKings, which kind of sucks, but I'm not playing any of these players.
No, I have no incentive. Like, this is not a game stack. This is hardly a team stack. I would take 2 pieces from the Patriots and be done.
Yep. Sounds about right to me.
Anything else from this game that we might have missed? We didn't really go over injuries.
Patriots defense is fine with me.
They're what, 4,300 on DraftKings?
They're expensive, but if you're going to pay up a defense, I think that's the spot to do it.
I think they're 4,300. They're the most expensive defense on the slate, and it's not close. The last time these two teams played, it was no Pats D, no cash. So
it could happen again. I mean, I don't think they're going to be that highly owned at 4,300, but they might be high enough owned to almost break the slate.
Correct. It's within the range of outcomes where, like, if you don't have that defense, you're not going to cash. With quarterback value, running back, there's value at every position. That's just how week 17 is. And if you can make it work, do it. Get the Patriots in your lineup. All right. Jets and Bills. This game is disgusting. I could fade this game entirely and not be upset about it. 36.5 implied total. The Bills are 1.5 point home favorites. I think that's hilarious. But the Bills are resting starters, aren't they?
They don't know. They haven't. We have no news on that whatsoever. I think they should. I bet Josh Allen plays a quarter and a half and then sits down. I bet the same thing we can say about Devin Singletary, which makes every single player on that offense completely unplayable.
Yeah, like, you can't play John Brown. I mean, it's a good spot. I like the
I bet John Brown doesn't play at all.
Yeah,
actually. With the way that they rest him during the season with that sickle cell trade, I don't think he's going to see a single snap this week.
Yeah, I don't want to play anyone from this game at all.
I think their defense is still good, even if it's not every single starter too. So I'm not really that interested in the Jets players either. The one play that maybe makes a little bit of sense is the Jets defense if we're looking at Buffalo sitting most of their starters by the second half. But even then, I think there's better value at defense.
We could, I'm probably going to end up fading this entire game and this game entirely. I think the pace is gross. I like to target defenses in high pace games. And I mean, at the moment, just no, thank you on the pace of play for this game. Like, I don't want it.
Yep.
All right. You good to move on from it then?
Let's do it.
Thank God. We've got Atlanta at Tampa Bay. Now, this game has one of the highest totals, if not the highest total on the slate. 48 implied total. Tampa Bay is a 1-point favorite. Neither of these teams are playoff bound. They're playing for pride. We don't have any reason to believe any starters are sitting. I know Jameis Winston is playing for 5,000 yards. He's, what is he, like 95 yards short?
Yeah, 92 yards short.
Yeah.
He's going to get there, but I don't think that he gets there and then sits down. They're not going to sit starters in this game. This is a pride game for both of these teams.
Correct. I don't think there's any reason to believe that we don't see a full slate of snaps for every starter. No Godwin, no Mike Evans, no problem. Jameis Winston was still productive. I mean, it was gross. Rashad Perryman,
4 interceptions in the first half made me cry.
It was disgusting. He still threw for 300 yards in that game, I believe.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, he still got there. Justin Watson caught that first touchdown. That might have been his only touchdown. I know Ronald Jones had himself a game. That game against Houston was just so random, and I do think this could be a very fun game for both sides. I think both teams are going to be worth targeting. I won't I don't think I'm getting to either Jameis or Matt Ryan. I want shares of Dak. I want shares of RG3. I want shares of Case Keenum. I want shares of Brady. And I just don't see these guys making it into my player pool. Are you interested in either of these quarterbacks?
I like stacking Matt Ryan with Julio Jones if you can afford it, but with what we're looking at running back, with the two best plays on the slate being $10,000 and $8,200 respectively, I cannot get to him. I just can't do it.
No, I can't get to the quarterbacks, and I want to play Julio. I think Julio's in a great spot. No Ridley, dude. His target share has just been astronomical, but there's a lot of good wide receiver plays I like. I really do like Amari Cooper this week. I'm interested in Michael Gallup. That game's in Dallas, so that game is going to have a lot of my attention. I think Devonta Freeman is interesting, but like even against the Bucs run defense, I'm not.
No, you can't do it because Devonta Freeman against top 15 run defenses has averaged 20 plus DK points, and against bottom 15 run defenses, like as a matchup, he's been almost unplayable, like single digits almost every week.
You use the RotoViz tool for that?
I didn't even know you could on the RotoViz tool. I just looked it up.
Oh, dude, the RotoViz manually. Yeah, the RotoViz what am I trying to say here? The RotoViz game splits app. You can do it by game splits. You can do it by the game's over under. You can do it by the strength of pass defense, the strength of rush offense. It's that tool is awesome, man. But no, yeah, I mean, I guess I hear you. I still think he's going to see a decent enough target share. What about Austin Hooper?
Austin Hooper, I like. I think we can project this game for a ton of plays, and Austin Hooper is probably the number 2 target in that offense. I think you can safely project him for 8 to 10 targets, and if he gets you a touchdown, even at his price point, he's viable.
I think this game, I think we can project this game for like at least 130 plays. I think this game has a floor of 125 to 130 plays. Both of these teams in all situations, they're averaging over 70 plays per game. So I think as far as pace of play lines up, this is the game. They both play fast too. They don't both just run a lot of plays, but they play fast as well. Both of these teams are under 25 and a half seconds per play. So as far as pace is concerned, this game is the Stones. So you want pieces of it. And I think Julio, Hooper, and maybe a Bucs wide receiver. I think that's probably.
Yeah, I think Justin Watson is in play in tournaments. I guess Perriman is fine, but I'm not putting either of them in my cash lineup.
No, but I just think there's so many ways to get creative with cash this week. This is not a fade cash week, kind of like how the Thanksgiving slate is for me, where I just play all tournaments. I'm still going to play cash, but this is going to be a week where I get a little less strict with my bankroll and I just play more tournaments because my player pool is going to be bigger. There's going to be more guys that I want pieces of, more games that I want pieces of because of all the value we have. And
also because it's a 15 game slate.
Yeah, exactly. I just want to have fun. That's why I think this is going to be a slate where I prioritize tournaments. Ronald Jones, are you interested in Ronald Jones at all?
I have moderate interest, but he's just one of those guys where you never know if he's going to be the guy that gets going. If he's not the guy that gets going, low single digits are well within the range of outcomes. So tournament, sure. Definitely not in cash.
Bruce Arians isn't afraid to cuck him either, but he did play 45.3% of the snaps last week. Yeah, I guess without that big run, I mean, it's pretty tough to think about what he would have done without that 60-yard run in the first half. Anything else in this game that we're forgetting? What about maybe the Bucs tight ends?
I'm moderately interested in OJ Howard. His air yards last week were fantastic. He didn't convert them for anything, and it was gross, but you can follow the air yards, and I like that process.
I'm always in favor of following air yards. I remember like just a year ago when people were like anti-air yards, and I'm just thinking like, why are you like this? Air yards make the most sense. And I mean, OJ Howard, he still saw, 133 air yards, saw 7 targets. Like the process was good. Justin Watson saw 10 targets and a 26% market share of air yards. So I think I would rather pay down and play Justin Watson, but I want pieces of this game. You can get so creative with this game, but the wide receivers for both teams and maybe OJ Howard are where I'm going to go.
Yeah, a few weeks ago when we had that New Orleans Houston game, I think, when we just didn't have enough shares in it, this game could turn into that game in terms of pace, shootout, how many players get there.
You mean New
You know what I'm talking
Orleans and
about?
San Francisco?
Oh, yeah, New Orleans, San Francisco. That's the game I'm talking
Where
about.
that entire game was just the stones for everybody, and like a lot of people.
This could turn into that.
It could. I think it's well within this game's range of outcomes. Julio Jones is 8.5. He's priced as the wide receiver 2 on the slate, but like, I mean, between 9.9 Michael Thomas and 8.5 Julio against the Bucks. I know the Bucks have been better against wide receivers as of late, but it's freaking Julio Jones. And I think just pound for pound, I want to play Julio over Michael Thomas. What do you think?
I agree. It's a pricing thing, really. I can't get up to 9,900 and play Christian McCaffrey or Aaron Jones, really.
Yeah.
Like I can if I get really gross with my wide receivers, but I don't like it.
Yeah, over the last 2 games with Calvin Ridley off the field, Julio has seen a 42% target share, 62% market share of air yards, 65 PPR points, a total of 35 targets, 1.06 weighted opportunity rating. Like that's I'm not skipping on that volume against the defense that we know is still vulnerable against wide receivers. I think Julio's the best wide receiver play on the slate. Anything else in this game?
Nope.
Cleveland at Cincinnati. Neither of these teams are playoff bound. They're both playing for pride. 43.5 over under. Cleveland is a 2.5 point road favorite. I don't really want anybody in this game except maybe some tournament shares of Nick Chubb.
I would consider Tyler Boyd in tournaments too, because he's going to be super low owned and he's going to get a really nice target share. I think the Browns have given up on their season. Like their coach is fired. They're not playing for anyone. I just don't see a world where they get up for this game unless it's to just prove that Freddie Kitchens is a donkey. Like that's the only narrative that makes sense to me that has Cleveland even showing up.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, so does that mean you wouldn't play Nick Chubb?
I probably wouldn't play Nick Chubb. I guess in tournaments he's fine, but I won't have him in any of my lineups.
I don't know. I mean, with me, it's like whenever Nick Chubb is going to come in under-owned, I'm always on him. At 7.5, I still think he's a value. We haven't projected for sub 10% ownership at FanShare. And he's going up against Cincinnati, which is just a nuts running back matchup. They're 29th in explosive run rate on the year. Nick Chubb kind of makes his living just ripping off massive explosive runs. We know 90-yard plus touchdown runs are in his range of outcomes. He's that athletic. He's that fast. He has breakaway speed. And I think just this is a great spot for him. I don't think they're going to sit him. What about Kareem Hunt at 5.2? Could you get behind playing Kareem Hunt?
I think he's the most appropriately priced that he's been since he got back from the suspension. So I'd consider it. I think it's a great matchup. I'm having trouble getting in this game. Like it could be a game where neither of these teams show up because I don't think that either of them are really playing for anything.
Odell Beckham was a did not practice last we heard. He's been questionable all week with a groin. Do you think that matters at all for maybe someone like Jarvis Landry?
I guess, but Jarvis Landry, it came out that he's been playing with a fractured vertebra too. So like they could just end up sitting all of their offensive players by the second half.
I didn't hear that. I did not hear he was playing with a fractured vertebrae because I'm looking at the injury report right now. It's still showing hip, limited full participant in practice, and that he's confirmed to play. I don't think OBJ is going to play.
No, I don't think so either. But I like with Landry's injury issues too, I don't think he's a guy you can trust in cash. And like, there's just so many fun plays on this slate in games that have way nicer totals. Like the total just keeps going down for this game. It's at 43.5 now. I just don't see a whole lot of appeal in this game.
Yeah, that line has moved backwards by 2 points. I mean, it's an easy game to fade, but I definitely think I want shares of Nick Chubb. I think he's
sure. I won't argue with that.
He's the guy I'm going to jam into all of my lineups, or not all of them, but a decent amount of them. I do like Nick Chubb a lot. And another guy that I can't seem to ignore is John Ross. I really liked the usage I saw last week. I believe you were on Ross last week, at least in some sense. The process was good. I thought the usage was very good. 13 targets. He had a 23% target share, 48% market share of air yards. I mean, He's
How much does he cost?
it's easy to play. John Ross costs
4,500. Yeah, give me that in tournaments. I'll take that.
Yeah, I'll play John Ross. Absolutely. Anybody else from this game that you have interest in?
I don't think so. I'm not playing either defense.
No, I mean, I do think in a way that I think the I was gonna say the Browns might be like an okay value defense, but I don't know. I want like one or two pieces from this game and then I'm moving on. Now, Saints and Panthers. This is a fun game. DJ Moore is out. Christian McCaffrey is 200 scrimmage yards away from history. 45 implied total. The Saints are 13.5 point favorites. Will Grier is starting at quarterback again. That's the thing. Like that makes it easy to like get off of Curtis Samuel and just be all in on 10K Christian McCaffrey. I have said in the Discord that like if there is a slate to maybe fade McCaffrey just because of all the good running back plays, it might be this one. But that doesn't mean I'm not playing McCaffrey in tournaments. He will be my highest owned tournament running back by far. He is projected for some of the lowest ownership we have seen on him all year. We have him projected for sub 15% ownership at FanShare. Talk to me about Christian McCaffrey a little bit.
Well, he needs 216 scrimmage yards to break the all-time record for scrimmage yards, and he needs 67 yards for 1,000 and 1,000. So he's a guy that, I mean, if you want to fade him, I'm not going to totally argue with you because some of the higher priced running backs are really attractive this week, more so than usual. But if you can get to him in cash, do it because if he gets that 216 yards and he gets that 67 yards, it's probably going to take him 5 or 6 catches to get there. If he scores 2 touchdowns, he broke the slate.
That's the thing. Breaking the slate is always within Christian McCaffrey's range of outcomes, especially for cash. At 11% ownership, like if that's where ballpark, if that's where he comes in, you can survive a McCaffrey fade. You can survive a McCaffrey 40 burger. That's really my only process with him in cash because playing McCaffrey at 10K, especially in cash, you have to structure your entire build around him. With Aaron Jones, with Jamal Williams out, he's my favorite running back play on the slate relative to price point.
Yeah, I wouldn't argue with that at all. Aaron Jones might be my favorite play on the slate.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm excited to talk about Aaron Jones, but McCaffrey, you're not fading McCaffrey. You're not full fading McCaffrey. If you didn't play him in cash, he needs to be your highest owned tournament play. It's that simple. And if you have him in cash, you're still playing him in tournaments. Like it's that simple. Like he's the best raw projected point total play on the slate, and the only guy who's even remotely close that isn't a quarterback is going to be Michael Thomas. So when you hear me say fade McCaffrey, know that if you're fading him in one slate of game or one set of games, you need to be playing him in another set of contests. Anybody else in this game that catch your eye? I mean, Michael Thomas is Michael Thomas. If you're not playing McCaffrey, I think 9.9 Michael Thomas is important. But I mean, we already said we like Julio more. With Will Grier at quarterback, this game outside of CMC and Michael Thomas, I just think it's a wild card.
I think it's a wild card, but I think that getting some exposure to the Saints running backs would be a good idea, even if it's just a tournament share of Latavius Murray. Like maybe put Kamara in your cash lineup on one of the sites if you're playing multiple sites, because they do have the ability to really go off. And it looks like the Kamara might be decently owned, like not super highly owned, but we'll see. I'm not super thrilled about any of the players for the Saints, but they do have a 29.25 implied total. So somebody's going to be scoring points as Vegas is right on this one.
I agree with that. I'm glad you mentioned Alvin Kamara. I mean, there's just so much to like about him regarding usage, regarding touchdown progression or positive regression. Over the last month, he's seen an 18% target share, 26 total targets. He's second on the team in targets to only Michael Thomas. And it's a nuts matchup for running backs. Carolina is dead last in explosive run rate allowed. They've allowed 60 explosive rushes on the year. Only the Bengals have allowed more. So it's a great matchup, and I definitely think he's going to get the usage. So I like.
It's hard to fade the running backs for New Orleans because they're first in adjusted line yards. They're 4th in stuffed rank, 10th in second level rank, 14th in open field rank. And then when you look at the other side of it, it's even better. Carolina is 30th in adjusted line yards, 28th in power rank, 23rd in stuffed rank, 32nd in second level, and 31st in open field rank. Like, there doesn't get a better matchup than this up front.
No, it's a Stones matchup, and as a heavy favorite, I like Kamara a lot. I think you can punt Latavius, even though he's not quite priced as a punt. But I think he's interesting in tournaments, and I think multiple touchdowns are within his range of outcomes.
Yeah, and he's one of those times like everybody could be on Kamara, and he could be the guy that gets you the leverage in tournaments.
That's true. It's just I don't think Kamara is going to come in that high owned. We've got him projected for sub 10% ownership now. And I think a lot of people, when they're paying up for running backs, they're going to go straight to McCaffrey. They're going to go straight to Aaron Jones.
Aaron Jones is going to be the highest owned running back on the slate. Like, we're not special in loving him.
No, I don't think so. I think Aaron Jones, and I mean, like at the top, the highest projected owned running backs right now, we've got Aaron Jones and Ezekiel Elliott. They're 1 and 2. So, and I'm with fan share here. That's exactly what I see happening. Anything else in this game? Any interest in maybe Saints wide receivers? Any interest in Jared Cook? Wait, is Jared Cook out? I don't see Jared Cook on an injury report.
No, he's healthy.
Yeah, he's.
I mean, Carolina's really good against tight ends. I think that there are better places to go with his price point at 5,200.
Yeah, Michael Thomas, the running backs. This is not a week where I get to Drew Brees. I think I would rather play the running backs. That's pretty much where I'm at. I think in this game, outside of McCaffrey, Alvin Kamara is probably my favorite play. Oh, Saints defenses too. Saints
defense is like 100% in play. That's like maybe the best play of the game.
Yeah, the Saints defense are definitely in play.
They're expensive though. They're 4K.
I was gonna say
I'd rather pay up for the Patriots at 43.
They're priced at DST too. I think those are the two great plays. And here's the thing: if you can't afford the Patriots defense, but you can afford the Saints, that's fine.
It's a good play.
That's fine.
Yep.
It's completely fine. You don't need to force in the Patriots when you're playing the Saints. This is going to be a week where I think I see myself trying to manipulate my lineup so I can pay up for a defense, because I definitely think 30 DK points is within both of those defenses' range of outcomes, the Patriots and the Saints.
The Bears against the Minnesota backups at 2,100 is pretty appealing too.
I like that as well, but I also like the Vikings D in that game, even with their starters resting. So
sure.
All right, Packers and Lions. This game could be fun. Packers are still playing for seeding, so we should still see a full slate of snaps for all the starters. 43 implied total. The Packers are 12.5 point favorites, and it's a pretty good matchup across the board for pretty much all Packers players.
Yeah, the Packers are playing at the same time as the Saints too, and the two teams that affect them in the NFC West are playing on Sunday Night Football. So there's no way that at any point in this game, unless they're up by 20, that they're going to rest anybody. I think there's a world where they really slow it down and give Aaron Jones the football 25 to 30 times, but I don't think there is a world where they take their foot off the gas with, a 10-point lead.
Are you at all worried about Aaron Jones' ceiling against the defense that ranks first in the NFL in explosive run rate allowed?
I'm not, because I think that the volume is going to be there, and he's been getting enough work in the passing game. Like, we had that stat early on where his target share would just absolutely drop into the floor with Devontae Adams on the field, and that's kind of gone away over the last few weeks.
Yeah, I was actually just looking at his target share over the last 3 games. He's sitting at a 10% target share. The thing I like about Aaron Jones is he will see some weighted usage. He's seen 42 air yards. Like, most running backs are in the negative. So for a running back to see 42 air yards over the course of a couple of games, that's good. That means he saw a target or two downfield. Like, if you look at Miles Sanders' weighted usage, it's the same thing. And he has been one of fantasy football's best running backs over the last several weeks. He's been Philadelphia's most reliable receiver. So no, I think Aaron Jones is a fantastic play. I'm not really worried about Detroit's defense. I think especially against short yardage situations, they're still not very good. I mean, they're still a pretty good matchup. They're still ranking 25th in second level rank, 29th in open field rank. So they're still not very good. So
no, they're a Stones matchup. Like, they're not quite Carolina, but they're close.
Yeah. Anything in this game? I don't want anything on the Lions side. I really don't. Devontae Adams, I think we have to talk about him. He's been one of the most heavily targeted receivers in the NFL over the past few weeks. Over the last 3 games, 35% target share, 31% market share of air yards, 35 total targets. He's been one of the most heavily utilized wide receivers in the game. Anything else that catch your eye in this game?
I mean, the Packers defense is interesting.
Yeah, no,
anytime you're buying a defense against David Blau, that's appealing.
No, I definitely think you can target defenses. Is there any other Packers receivers you might be interested in? I know Allen Lazard, I mean, he's been getting a hefty snap share. He's pretty much taken over as the number 2 wide receiver. He's the only guy that's getting a full slate of snaps outside of Devontae Adams.
At 4K, I'm certainly interested in that. I probably won't get there in cash just because there is a range of outcomes for this game where they only throw the ball 15 to 20 times, and I don't think that Lazard gets a big enough target share with what Adams is going to get and with what Jones is going to get to really like eat for you. But, if this is one of those weird games where Detroit comes out and scores 2 touchdowns in the first quarter, Lazard could absolutely smash.
You don't want anything. You don't want any Aaron Rodgers at 4.8 ownership.
I'm interested, but it's probably a tournament play for me because in cash, I want to get up to those expensive running backs and I can't do it at his price point.
I'm with you, but I definitely think one of my favorite things to do, especially with Aaron Jones being like alpha chalk, one of my favorite things to do in tournaments is going to be to play Aaron Rodgers and stack him with either Adams or Lazard. I haven't even looked at Devontae Adams' ownership. Is it going to be like out of hand, or is Aaron Jones being the alpha chalk kind of pulling ownership off him? Aaron Jones looks down there. Or I'm sorry, Devontae Adams, like he's not right up at the top for projected ownership for wide receivers by any means. He's down there. We have him
at 5.3. Yep. Yeah, like he's a good tournament pivot for sure if you're going to try and get away from Aaron Jones.
That might be the best tournament wide receiver on the slate.
Yeah. I mean, he's right there with guys like Larry Fitzgerald in terms of ownership projection. That's a good play, man.
Yeah. Allen Lazard is going to have 0 ownership, so I still really like him. But yeah, I mean, in tournaments, that's the way to go, man. No one's going to play the Packers passing game with Aaron Jones being the alpha chalk. Just stack the passing game too. Bears at Vikings. Vikings are probably resting starters. Bears are playing for pride. And it really wouldn't shock me with nothing to play for if the Bears just come out and play conservative again, because they had nothing to play for but pride against the Chiefs, and at home on national television played extremely conservative football. So 36 implied total, and the Bears are 3.5 point favorites on the road against the backups in Minnesota. Anything in this game at all?
The only thing is the one I already mentioned. I'm interested in the Bears defense at 2,100.
What about any Vikings running backs against an Akeem Hicksless Bears defense?
I mean, I am slightly interested, but the usage last week was just so confusing that I definitely can't get there in cash. I think that either one of them is an okay tournament play, but I haven't found a build that I like with either of them in it yet.
I want to so bad go back to Mike Boone. With Akeem Hicks off the field, the Bears have averaged a yard per carry more. Explosive run rate has nearly doubled. Running success rate has increased by nearly 16%. I mean, with Akeem Hicks off the field, like it's not a terrible matchup for running backs. And I mean, if Mike Boone is going to see a decent, he only played 18 snaps against the Packers because they were trailing for most of that game. And no one's going to play him. That's my only thing with Mike Boone. And not in cash, won't do it. Not taking that risk. But tournaments, I could definitely see myself getting there. Other than that, Bears defense and Mike Boone, I think that's pretty much all I'm interested in.
Yeah, Amir Abdullah played 60% of the snaps last week, but I think the game script should be different in this game.
You think with I haven't even, with the Vikings injury report, I mean, if both of their starting linebackers are going to be out again, Eric Kendricks is he's already been ruled out. Have we heard anything at all on Anthony Barr? Is he going to play? Has he even been on the injury report?
He's off the injury report.
But if they're resting starters, Anthony Barr should sit, right?
Probably, you would think.
Would you play David Montgomery?
No.
Yeah, I don't need.
I think that Bears front on offense has been so bad that I think that Minnesota backups can still dominate the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, I do too. It really sucks because if they were playing like against any other team, I would probably be starting the running back against them. Aaron Jones hit the nuts after both Eric Kendricks and Anthony Barr left the game. He had like 56 total yards going into the fourth quarter and a handful of catches. And then he scored both of those touchdowns and ripped off the long touchdown run after both of those linebackers had left the game. So
guaranteed me $300 in season long. Boom.
Yeah, Aaron Jones won me a fantasy championship too, and I am forever grateful. Chargers at Chiefs. We should see all the starters in this game. It's got a 45.5 implied total. The Chiefs are 10-point home favorites. Talk to me about this game.
Damian Williams is pseudo chalk, and at 4,700, I think he's a great play. I think he's chalk that you can eat. I really like stacking the passing game in this game for the Chiefs because I think there's this narrative that the Chiefs aren't playing for anything if New England goes up big, and that's just simply not true. Texans win, Chiefs lose. Texans are the 3 seed. The AFC Championship could end up going through Houston, and that's something that the Chiefs do not want.
Yeah, the Chiefs definitely need to play. They need to play their starters, and they need to win. The Chiefs shouldn't not be trying to win this game. So I think we're going to see all the Chiefs starters. I like Damian Williams a lot. He's going to be uber chalk, but he's a good play. Definitely a good play. Yeah, last week, Damian Williams still played 53% of the snaps. He saw some targets, and he got the red zone carries. So, I mean, it looks like Spencer Ware isn't going to play.
Nope, he's out.
Yeah, Spencer Ware's been ruled out, and he was really the only guy getting snaps outside of Damian Williams. So, I mean, LaShawn McCoy was a healthy scratch last week. McCoy is probably going to play.
Yep, and he's going to get snaps, too.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he'll get snaps, but I still think Damian Williams is going to be the starter. And we know that, I mean, when he's been on the field, Damian Williams has not been bad. You know, all the people that faded Damian Williams in redraft this year, they can take their victory lap. They won. But, like, Damian Williams when he's been healthy, he hasn't been bad. He's been more than playable in DFS. He was playable last week. And a few weeks ago, when Shady was ruled out, he was playable again. So I like that play a lot. What about Tyreek Hill? Any interest?
Yes, definitely, because he can put up 40 plus points in any game, and this is a pretty decent matchup. I do worry because that Chargers secondary has gotten healthy that we could see them really shut down the passing game a little bit. And with how soft they are against the run game, we could see this game paced down a little bit more than we expect in a normal Chiefs game. But in tournaments, I really like Mahomes is really hard to get to. He's super expensive. But if you can put Mahomes and Tyreek Hill in a tournament lineup, I like that.
I feel like the pace for this game is just not as attractive as it looks on paper. It's not a game where I'm really going to be forcing guys in. Neither of these teams run a ton of plays. You got to remember with the Chiefs, like, they're explosive. They don't run a ton of plays because they're efficient. You know, they're one of the most efficient teams on a per play basis in the NFL as far as like yards per play is concerned. So they don't run a ton of plays. They don't play particularly fast. And the Chargers want to play slow. The Chargers have wanted to play slow all year. That's been their game. I definitely think you can play some Chargers running backs. I think both Eckler and Melvin Gordon are going to be in play.
I think Eckler is a great play because I do see this game. I think the Chiefs are going to win this game, and I think they're going to win it pretty handily. So if they do, Austin Eckler's target share and negative game scripts is wonderful. So that's something that we can look forward to.
Absolutely. The Chiefs rank towards the bottom of the league in explosive run rate allowed. Austin Eckler is an explosive play machine. He's one of the most efficient running backs on a per touch basis in the NFL. So I definitely like the idea of getting some shares of Austin Eckler. Honestly,
if you're playing the Chiefs passing game too, that's a great run back.
Correct. I agree.
It's strange to run back the passing game on another team with the running back from the team that's trailing, but it's a good play.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I like it completely. And Austin Eckler, I mean, at 6.2, I don't think he's going to carry like any ownership. We haven't projected for sub 5% ownership at FanShare. So I like it a lot. Speaking of FanShare, make sure you guys check out FanShare Sports, get in on that FanShare Pro experience, get some of the best ownership projections in the industry. One thing that I've really started to rely on is the positive and negative sentiments. Like, you can really get an idea of whether or not the buzz a player is generating is positive or negative. Like, do people like this guy? Do people dislike this guy? Why is this guy getting tagged so much? That's something I've relied on a lot. They've got a great point projection system. It's been relatively accurate for me. I've been using their projections for several weeks now, and they've been fantastic for me. I just love the way Fanshare keeps everything consolidated by position, and I love all the access I have to the slates.
Yeah, it's a great tool, man. Like, we're talking about John Ross. John Ross has a plus 35. Everybody's loving him. So it might not be as good of a tournament play as we'd hoped.
No, I mean, I think you can almost play John Ross in cash. I think he's going to be that high owned.
Yep.
We are on to the afternoon slate of games. It looks like we got a 7 slate game afternoon slate, but it's all part of the main slate. Titans at Texans. Now, we've already talked about this. Houston really, we don't know if Houston is going to play their starters or not. I think it's going to be definitive on what Kansas City does. If Kansas City wins, obviously Houston can probably rest their starters. So we really don't. This game is going to be difficult to attack. Tennessee, however, needs to win. Tennessee needs
to win, and they're going for milestones.
Yes, they are playing for wins. It's got a 44.5 implied total. The line has moved significantly because they're not expecting Watson to play. They're not expecting Nook to play. And Titans are 6-point favorites. So assuming Derrick Henry plays, Derrick Henry's going to play, right?
Yes,
he is in. He's been a full participant.
Full practices all week.
Yep. I think Derrick Henry is a fantastic play in this game.
I think Derrick Henry is a fantastic play, but the one thing that scares me about that is that Ryan Tannehill can make $250,000 if he throws 3+ touchdowns in this game, and he can make $250,000 more if he has 204 passing yards. So I really could see them, if this turns into a situation where they're up on the Texans, where they don't just keep running the football and they get Ryan Tannehill his money.
Houston is 23rd in the NFL in explosive pass rate allowed. They've allowed 51 explosive passes. And for people that might not know, that's just a pass play of 20 or more yards downfield. So Houston is a good defense to attack already. They might be sitting starters. So I think this is a great week to stack Tannehill. It's a great week to play AJ Brown. But I don't think you need to stop at AJ Brown. I mean, I think you can chase some value. You might be able to play Corey Davis. Tajay Sharp got a ton of weighted usage last week. I'm not saying hammer him in. I'm just saying that he saw 22% target share and a 31% market share of air yards.
Yeah, it seems like they might be trying to figure something besides Corey Davis out on that front. Just with the way that the play design looked, I watched a ton of that game because I was in Tennessee. And he was the first read on a lot of those plays.
Yeah, he broke free, and I actually think Tannehill missed him on a third touchdown.
Yep.
Yeah, he's interesting. He's only 4,300, projected for almost zero ownership. So that could definitely be something interesting to watch. I don't think it's all going to be AJ Brown. I still think AJ Brown is a great play. And obviously point for point, he's going to be a better play than Tajay Sharp. I'm not saying fade AJ Brown by any means. I'm just saying that, if you're looking for more value, some tournament value, get some exposure to Tajay Sharp, man.
AJ Brown only needs 73 yards to hit 1,000 in his rookie season too. That's significant.
Yeah, AJ Brown. I mean, he's still a great play. I am still definitely going to play him. What about Jonnu Smith? Any interest there?
It kind of depends. If the Chiefs lose, I probably won't play Jonnu Smith because the Texans are actually okay against tight ends, but I'll definitely play anyone in that passing offense or Derrick Henry if Houston sits their starters, because I think that the Titans might want to embarrass them.
Tannehill is projected to be the highest owned quarterback on the slate, it looks like right now. We've got him projected for more than 10% ownership, but he projects very well. And he's expensive. He's hard to get to, but if you're paying up for quarterbacks, I think that might be the way to go. He's probably got the most touchdown pass upside of any quarterback this week. What do you think? You good to move on?
Yep.
Redskins at Cowboys. Cowboys are 100% playing for a playoff spot. They're playing at the same time as the Eagles, so they're not resting starters. It looks like Dak has lost his injury designation, so he should be a full go. He was still a limited participant Friday, but he is going to play. And against Washington, at home, this is where you want Dak Prescott. What do you think about stacking some Cowboys pass catchers?
Stack the whole game, man. I like it. Like I don't even mind if you're going to go out there and pay the $4,500 for Case Keenum, pay down for one of the cheap wide receivers, and then run it back with the Cowboys receivers. Because this game, the pace might get ugly if Dallas can't score a bunch of points, but Washington could pace up, and Dallas is one of the fastest teams out there. So you could see this game projected for more plays than you expect. And I think that there are a ton of fun ways to attack this game.
I agree completely. I want to play Case Keenum naked. I don't really want to chase any of his wide receivers. I would have played him with McLaurin easy. Like,
yep.
I would have jammed Terry McLaurin into my lineup. But with him ruled out, I'd rather not chase any of these wide receivers. I'd rather just play Keenum naked, get the value, and then probably load up on Dallas wide receivers.
Yeah, I don't mind that either. I think we did talk about it before the show. Chris Thompson is really interesting with Terry McLaurin out. Do you have those stats pulled up still about the injury report?
Hold on. Yeah, with Terry McLaurin off the field, I mean, he goes from an 11% target share. Chris Thompson, he goes from an 11% target share all the way up to 23.1. And his target share actually increases with Case Keenum on the field as well. So I definitely think this is a decent spot for Chris Thompson. He's below 4K. We know he's somebody that can rip off big plays when he gets in space. And no one's going to play him. You know, he's not somebody I'm playing in cash, but I mean, he's a guy that I would definitely want in my tournament pool for sure.
Yeah, I like this game a lot. I think that you're safe in tournaments playing any of these guys, but like I can't get to Dak in cash. Gallup maybe in cash because his price is pretty attractive, and we've seen Amari Cooper off the field on third downs lately for some reason. It's got to be the injury, right?
I would assume.
Yeah. So I think Gallup is an okay cash play. Otherwise, I'm pretty much looking at this as a tournament game outside of Case Keenum, because I'll play Keenum in cash naked, no problem at 4,500. He needs like 17, 18 points to hit you 4x. His ceiling is legitimately 7x in this game.
I would agree. I think this game is very attractive on all fronts. It's a game I want a lot of pieces of. And Dak is probably going to be my second highest owned quarterback. Honestly, I think I know I want shares of Tannehill. I want shares of Dak. I see myself playing more Dak than anything.
Sure. I'm going to pay down for quarterback quite a bit. And one of the things that we should mention, we're not quite there yet, but if you are playing Keenum is 4,500. If we get word during the afternoon that Blake Bortles is going to start for the Rams, I'm pivoting to Blake Bortles because they're the same price, and I don't mind playing Bortles naked either.
Yeah, that matchup against Arizona for the passing game is just the nuts, though. I mean, they rank 27th in explosive pass rate allowed. They're one of the worst defenses in the league in sense from a yards per attempt perspective. I think it would depend on what pass catchers he has at the helm, though.
Sure.
I mean, we don't know what wide receivers are going to. I think there's a world where like Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp sit, but Brandon Cooks plays.
I mean, I'll still play Blake Bortles with Brandon Cooks and Josh Reynolds playing wide receiver if both of the tight ends play. Sure.
I just want to know that he's going to have at least one viable wide receiver, and then hopefully Tyler Higbee. If we have like Robert Woods and Tyler Higbee and the other guys sit, or we have Brandon Cooks, Higbee and the other guys sit, that's enough for me. But if all of them sit, I think I would rather just go Keenum.
Gerald Everett was totally removed from the injury report this week too.
Yeah, but he was active last week and Tyler Higbee still dominated the usage.
Sure, but if we miss two of the wide receivers, I think he's a viable pass catcher.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. I mean, if Higbee sits, like if they just sit Higbee completely, I'm fine playing Gerald Everett, or at least just playing the quarterback. I think he's good enough. Gerald Everett's a really good athlete. People forget about that.
Dude, if Higbee and Goff sit, pivoting to Gerald Everett and Blake Bortles could really bink you a GP.
Oh my God. It's disgusting to think about, but it's like well within the range of outcomes. That's the insane part. Ezekiel Elliott is probably going to be one of the highest owned running backs on the slate. He's 8K. I think he's fairly priced. At home, it's just like with Dak hurt, it's hard to gauge what we're going to see here exactly out of the Dallas offense. When they're at home, they're just better. They're more efficient. I just think the way to attack Washington is on the secondary with Quentin Dunbar out. That's why I think Dak is just going to be a good play. And it's tough because I really want shares of the entire offense. But when it comes right down to it, I'd rather play Dak and like Amari or Gallup than play Zeke.
I still think fading Zeke altogether might be a mistake, though. Like, he's going to be high enough owned, even in cash, that he could break the slate on you. Like, I don't know if it's like how in the range of outcomes it is for him to get a 40 burger, but if he does and you don't have him, you're screwed.
I'm not really worried about him breaking the slate because I know in like all of my lineups, I'm going to have Aaron Jones and Christian McCaffrey. And like, I'm more confident in those two crushing than I am in Zeke crushing. And I just think it's really going to be hard not playing Zeke to kill me as long as I've got at least one of those guys on my build, especially McCaffrey.
Yeah.
Anything else in this game? Got a 45.
No, I'm not playing any tight ends.
No, I won't play any tight ends either. I mean, I didn't say this, but it's got a 45.5 implied total. Dallas is a 13-point favorite. I mean, they've got a 29.
The Dallas defense is fine if you want to play.
I think the Dallas defense is completely fine. They've got a 29 and a quarter implied team total. Like everyone on Dallas is in play. But Eagles at Giants. Eagles have to win. Us because they'll be playing at the same time as the Cowboys. So they control their own destiny. If they win, they're in. So the Eagles have to win. They will be playing on the road against Daniel Jones, but it's got a 44.5 implied total. The Eagles are 4-point favorites. Jordan Howard is back. I think that makes it difficult to trust Miles Sanders. Otherwise, I think
it makes him a borderline elite tournament play, though, because it's going to throw his ownership so far down and they have no receivers. So we could see both of those two players on the field for a significant number of the snaps.
I mean, you didn't let me finish, but he's going to be 6.8. He's 6.8. We've got him projected for right around 10% ownership at FanShare right now. So I definitely think his ownership is still like low enough. And I don't think he comes in that high owned. I think that's going to drop overnight. He's their best wide receiver. Zach Ertz is out. Alshon is out. I think Nelson Aguilar, he was ruled in, correct? Aguilar's out. Aguilar is out. Alshon is out. Ertz is out. Greg Ward is probably going to be the highest owned wide receiver on the slate. In a tournament, man, inject Miles Sanders into my veins.
Yep.
Yeah.
Totally agree. I think Dallas Goedert is the best tight end play on the slate, regardless of format.
Yeah. Goddard is going to be, Goddard. I
don't care either way.
You keep saying Goddard, it throws me off, but I mean, Goat-ert, I like it. I mean, he's the best tight end on the team. Don't at. But, okay. What about attacking this Philly secondary with Ronald Darby out?
Yes, please. Let's do it.
Yep.
And part of the question there becomes how effective can Darius Slayton be with that little injury that he picked up? Like, he's off the injury report. He had a full practice on Friday, but he is their deep threat. So I don't think I can trust him in cash or tournaments, but I really want to target the other wide receivers and stack them with Daniel Jones in tournaments. I think it's a really nice way to attack this game, and I don't think it's going to be super highly owned.
I'll probably just do what I always do and play whichever is the cheapest of the Giants wide receivers. But, Golden Tate over the last 3 games, 20% target share, 30% market share of air yards. He's second on the team in weighted opportunity by just 3 points to Sterling Shepard.
And he's 5,100. He's my favorite play out of those wide receivers.
Yeah, like they're not using him as a slot receiver. They are using him like 273 air yards that leads the team over the last 3 weeks. So I like Golden Tate a lot.
And somehow, even at his advanced age, he is a yak monster.
He's just so good. I would argue he's one of the most underrated wide receivers of like our generation. I don't think he's like a Hall of Famer by any means, but I do think Golden Tate is like, he's always been good. He has been good as long as I've been watching him.
He's just worse Larry Fitzgerald.
I think that's a decent way to put it. I mean, he's coming in at 5,100 right now, projected for sub 5% ownership. I could play Golden Tate and he could just be my piece from that game along with Goddard. So I don't think you need him. I don't think you need his quarterback to play him. I just think he's an all around good play. I played him last week and he got there for me. He was 4,800 and nearly got the bonus, caught it. He was fine. So I'll go back there again and just hope he can catch a touchdown and maybe convert on one of these long passes.
You can play him with Daniel Jones, though. I think there's some points scored in this game.
Absolutely. 40. It's got a decent total for the slate.
It's not a great total, but it's pretty good for this slate. I mean, it's what, 3 points lower than the highest game on the slate? 2.5?
Yeah, I think this game has a decent pace too. I mean, the Giants don't run a ton of plays, but both teams play relatively fast. And it's the Eagles run a ton of plays. So I think you can project this game for almost 125 plays. And I think a lot of people are overlooking the pace of this game. I think this game is full-blown stack worthy, where you can get like 3 to 5 pieces from the entire game. And it can, especially because Goddard, we're assuming Dallas Goddard's going to be the highest owned tight end on the slate. You can make your Goddard lineups unique just by stacking the whole game.
Totally. I'm into playing Jones, Barkley, Tate, Goddard, Ward. I'll do that.
Absolutely. I am definitely here for that completely. Anything else from this game that we didn't talk about? I mean, you just mentioned Barkley, but I don't think I'll be playing Barkley in this game.
I think if you're going to stack the whole game, it would be kind of silly not to put him in because his touchdown equity has been so amazing over the last few weeks. But I don't mind if you're just picking pieces from this game, totally fading him.
I really want pieces of the pass offenses because I think that's where both of these defenses are most vulnerable now. That's why I want Goddard, I want Miles Sanders, but only because he's been their most consistent pass catcher. And I want Golden Tate. I'm interested in Daniel Jones. I'm interested in Sterling Shepard. So I really just want to attack the pass defenses. Do you think Philadelphia's defense is in play at all against Daniel Jones?
I mean, he fumbles so much that there's certainly a scoop and score is possible, and they'll probably be relatively lowly owned, but I'm probably not going that direction. There's too many good plays on this slate.
I agree with you. I just think in a must-win game for the Eagles at 3.5, I think I'm going to have a decent amount of Eagles defense.
Don't chase that Caden Smith spike game either.
No, I won't do it. I would rather play the wide receivers. I won't play Caden Smith. Steelers and Ravens, I'm fading. I might fade this game completely. I would love to get in on some Ravens value. It's just I don't know between Gus Edwards and Justice Hill and whether or not I want to play RG3. It's going to be tough. I don't need to play any Steelers. I won't play any Steelers. But
Miles Boykin's a pretty good tournament play in my opinion. He's going to play.
Oh, really? I was thinking Willie Snead.
Sure, I don't mind either of them. Like, I'm not doing it in like a big dollar tournament, but one of those $1 fun ones. If you need that value, because Miles Boykin is 3,000, he's min price.
Yeah. Andrews is ruled out, right? Like they're just going to sit Andrews. Is that what I heard?
I haven't seen that, but that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, I really don't know which of these guys are going to play. We don't have full confirmation yet. We know Ingram is sitting. We know Lamar is sitting. I thought I heard Andrews was going to sit. And I mean,
he was a DNP limited. He's not going to play. They're not going to play him.
No. So, I mean, would you attack any Ravens tight end value then? I guess is my next question.
Hayden Hurst is interesting to me because he'll probably play.
What about Nick Boyle?
I hate Nick Boyle. Like, you have to get a touchdown with him. He's not going to get you a 30+ yard play. Yeah. He's going to get run down from behind.
Whereas like Hayden Hurst could. I agree with that.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I still think I'm just going to have a metric load of Dallas Goedert and then, just be random at tight end. So, I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I really do think this is going to be a slate where the morning in the Discord chat is just bananas.
Yep. Because we're going to get a ton of news overnight. Like Adam Schefter's midnight 2 a.m. tweets are going to be really important.
Correct. Colts and Jaguars, both of these teams playing for pride. Doug Marrone is expected to be dismissed from coaching duties at the end of this game. Right now, it's got a 41.5 implied total. The Colts are 5.5 point favorites. Anything at all from this game?
Reichwell Armstead is super cheap, and it's a good matchup. If Leonard Fournette is out, I think Reichwell Armstead is a decent play.
Fournette should be out too. Fournette, I believe, is doubtful, and he put out a tweet today saying that he's pretty much not going to play. So, we can treat Fournette as if he's out. Reichwell Armstead is 4,400, and I think he's a just fine play. What about?
I like the running back matchup for those Colts running back, and Jordan Wilkins is out, but I just can't get there.
Kenny Moore hasn't practiced all week, and he's still questionable. Y'all know how I feel about Kenny Moore whenever he's out.
Yeah, but are you really going to go after a questionable Gardner Minshew target?
Yes.
Is DJ Chark going to play?
I thought Chark was. Yeah, Chark played last week. I don't see why Chark wouldn't play this week. Yeah, Chark is in. Chark is going to play. I honestly think pretty much both Chark and Conley are in play for this game. Assuming Kenny Moore doesn't play, but he's been a DMP all week. They've allowed 9.7 yards per attempt, a 19.6% explosive pass rate, and a 60.8% passing success rate with Kenny Moore off the field. We've been pounding that drum for 3 weeks now, ever since that injury popped up. So, Raquel Armstead isn't the only good play, but I do think with Doug Marrone calling his last game for the Jaguars, what does he have to lose? Like
YOLO.
Is he going to come out and just establish the run, or is he going to come out and just have Gardner Minshew chuck bombs, or have
he's even going to show up,
or have Nick Foles?
He's just going to let the offensive coordinator run the entire game plan. Who knows?
Comes out to the sidelines just hammered. He was just doing shots in the locker room with Gardner Minshew,
doing his best Rob Ryan impression. Put a wig on.
Yeah, he's going to Gardner Minshew's locker room, who's doing his pregame ritual of doing naked jockstrap squat thrusts and probably taking
They're cutting jorts together in the locker room.
Doug Marrone is just partying in the locker room, just like YOLO. There is no easy way to project this game. We don't know if either of these teams are going to rest any starter. It's a meaningless game. Both of these teams are playing for pride. But I do think those games can be fun. They can be brutal to attack, or they can be fun to attack. It really depends. But with Marrone being dismissed, I really do think he just goes nuts. He just goes banana sandwich, and they play aggressive. They chuck a bunch of bombs, and I think Chark and Conley are both good plays in this game. Raiders at Broncos. Raiders need, amongst other things, the Raiders do need to win this game. 41 implied total. Broncos are 3.5 point favorites. Broncos passing game, I think, is very interesting. You have a nugget on Noah Fant that I just think is so interesting.
I think it's my favorite nugget that I've found in a few weeks. Oakland has allowed 66 explosive pass plays this season. That's the most in the NFL. Noah Fant has 11 plays of 20 plus yards this year on just 39 receptions. Like, this is a smash spot.
Renowned deep threat Noah Fant is, he's in a very good spot. No one's going to play Noah Fant. No one is going to think to play him.
No, he's super low. He's an elite tournament play, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree. The Raiders, they're just so bad against the pass. No team in the NFL has allowed more yards per pass attempt than the Raiders. It's just a good spot. And Drew Lock, he's playable too. This slate is just so wild because there are so many viable plays. Like, we've got all the value from guys sitting, but there's just a lot of guys that are like fairly or mispriced because they're in great spots. And I think Drew Lock, he draws the nuts matchup of the week with the Raiders.
Drew Lock's playable. Cortland Sutton's playable. Noah Fant, I think, it is an elite tournament play. Probably not playing the Broncos defense. Jacobs is out. DeAndre Washington is totally in play. I think that even in tournaments, you could pivot to Jalen Richard because Washington will be pretty highly owned. I'm not super interested in the pass catchers for the Raiders, but I wouldn't totally argue if you wanted to play a Tyrell Williams if he plays.
I think that covered pretty much everything.
Yeah, the Broncos are my team, so like I've studied this matchup. I think that the Broncos pass catchers are in play. Like, Phillip Lindsay is kind of interesting, but it's the same narrative every week. Like, who's going to get the usage?
We're already well over an hour into this podcast, and I don't want to make Joe's life hell, so I think these last two games we kind of need to power through. But, yeah.
It's only one game, really, though, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's one game. I'm sorry. I was looking at San Francisco, Seattle. My bad.
And honestly, check this out. We don't even need to talk about the Cardinals and the Rams because we need so much news about those games to even mention anything.
It's true.
Like, we're looking at, is it Bortles or is it Goff? We're looking at, is it Kyler Murray or is it Brett Hundley? And I think both of those guys are in play if the backups play. Generally, if that's not the end, I don't think that I'm very interested in this game at all.
Yeah, we were waiting on news for both quarterbacks. Like, that matters for playing the defenses. That matters for playing the pass catchers. That matters for playing, like, we really can't say much about this game because you hit it. We need Goff news and we need Kyler news.
Yep. Hang out in the Discord. We'll talk about it.
Hell yeah, we will. Anything else that we missed? Any news, notes, nuggets that you didn't get to share?
Dude, we talked for an hour plus. I think we're good.
Yeah, I'm tired. I'm hungry. I need water. I raced home from work so we could get onto this podcast. And even so, we've been talking for an hour and 10 minutes. And like, I still feel like there is so much we still should have mentioned that we just couldn't. That's how deep and in-depth this slate is. I've been talking about week 17 in the Discord in the RotoBros Discord. Don't forget, guys, make sure you're checking out that Patreon. There's going to be a lot of Dynasty fantasy football, a lot of best ball content. Producer Man and I are going to be doing a best ball podcast through the off season. That'll probably pick up right after the Super Bowl. So make sure you guys are checking that out. But regardless, I mean, we've been talking about in the Discord, we've been talking about week 17 for a few weeks. And, you know, some of our more inexperienced guys that are in the Discord that have had a really good season of DFS, they haven't experienced it. And I remember 2 years ago, I don't know if you played this slate, but it was literally Dion Lewis and Juju Smith-Schuster. Like no Juju, no Dion, you didn't make money because they were both like 40% owned. It was 2017. It was 2 years ago. They were both like 40% owned in every contest, and they both went for 40 plus. So like if you didn't have them, you got buried.
Aaron Jones could be that guy this week.
Aaron Jones could be that guy this week, but so could like some of these value plays. That's the thing, because both Dion Lewis and Juju were massive values because Antonio Brown was out. All the other Patriots running backs were out that week for Dion. So that's what, like, it's scary.
Greg Ward could be that guy this week too.
Greg Ward could easily be that guy this week. Dallas Goedert could be that guy this week. RG3 could be that guy.
The worst guy that could be for me is Sony Michel. Because he's projected for pretty high ownership, and I'm not going to have any exposure.
No, I like never play Sony Michel in DFS. And like, yeah, if he comes out and runs 3 touchdowns in, I'm going to throw up.
Yep.
Tom Brady could throw 5 touchdowns. I think that's within his range of outcomes. So look out for that. All right, man. RotoBros Fantasy Football Podcast, RotoBros DFS Fantasy Football Podcast for Chris McConnell, for Murphy Hamilton, and for the producer man, Joe Pollock. Joe, where are we going to find you, dude?
At Human Stat Sheet on Twitter. You can find our show at FF Takeaway on Twitter, or you can just subscribe to our podcast, The Fantasy Takeaway, on any of the major podcast platforms.
You are going to find me on Twitter at Mark Wemken. That's MarkWemken. You're going to find me at thequantedge.com every week. Hopefully I'll be part of their best ball content this year. I should be still producing DFS content for them through the playoffs at least. And then we're on to 2020. Shout out to David Smith. Shout out to Abraham in the Discord. We love you guys. We love all the subscribers. We love all the listeners. As always, keep balling, baby.